Okay, so we're back with part 2. We're working with social authentication. Scott, you had mentioned an issue getting the ESC error. I think our issue is here, and thanks to Preet for pointing it out. Inside of our app.js, when we get an error, here we're rendering error, but we're not rendering the user. We should be passing user. So in here, we also want to pass request.user. It may be null or it may be a valid user. That, I think, should get rid of that error. Try that and let me know. So in app.js, we've just added this when we're rendering our user, because our error page, because our error uses our header. Our header is checking for a user object, so we need to make sure we're passing a user object. So you can give that a try. I did put the modified Facebook code up on GitHub. So as I said, this seemed to work when we did it this way. We called find one and passed in the Facebook display name as the username. If our user wasn't null, we just called back and passed that current user and carried on. Otherwise, we created a new Mongoose account and called save. So this allows us to now log in with our Facebook account, log out, log back in, and it doesn't try to recreate a new account in MLab. So our Google Auth is working properly now. So now I can log in with either credential. I can use my local credential, and I'm logged in, or I can use my Facebook account. I'm logged in now with my Facebook profile. Either one. Now we could. Good. So thank you, Preet, for that fix. Now, Kyle also mentioned in the passport doc, so we were having an issue with it failing when we were calling find or create. That wasn't working for us. So I put up another version of this code. Now, Kyle found this. Here was the package. So if we want to, I'm going to maybe try the simplified version of our code. What we can do, we could try installing Mongoose find or create. And then if we add this code to our account schema, we should then be able to use find or create in app.js, which is a lot simpler than the code I wrote. So we can either leave it as is. I think I'm going to modify it and try and change it to use find or create instead, because that way our code is much more lightweight. But find or create, it's not built into Mongoose, so we need to add it. So I'm going to try that.
Shouldn't Passport have done that?
I would have thought so. If the passport developer is going to call find or create in his documentation, yeah, I'm kind of curious why Passport doesn't have it. I guess because Passport doesn't necessarily have to use Mongoose. That may be why. So I'm going to stop my server for a minute, and I'm going to npm install. I'll clear everything out. CLS clears the command prompt. So let's run an npm install mongoose find or create -- save. So by doing this, we should then be able to link this in our account model, and then we should be able to use the simpler version of our code. We'll try it. So npm install mongoose -find or create -- save. Hopefully we can get this working quickly, then we can move on to doing a Google authentication as well. Yep. Okay, so I've installed the package. So now we're going to need to open up our account model. We're going to need to link to our Mongoose find or create. And we also need, so we need to add 2 lines. We then need to add the plugin. So make sure our model can also use this. So let's open up our account model under models and account. So we'll require it. And just like we plugged in Passport local Mongoose, we'll also plug in Finder Create. So now our model can use the Finder Create as well. It is interesting that it is not, yeah, this is gray and not italicized. Yep. And if we go to node modules, it should be there. Mongoose dash Finder Create. So it's here. We'll try it. So now we'll try the simplified version again. But again, we'll have to make a few changes to it. So I'm going to go back to Passport. We'll try the Passport Facebook docs one more time. So it's got this callback function. I'll comment out that version that we wrote. But again, we're going to call account, not user. And again, we want our username to be our profile dot. I think it's profile dot display name. We'll try it and we'll see if it works. If not, we have a working version. This version just seems cleaner and shorter. So I've commented out this version. We'll give it a try. So again, I changed user to account, and I changed the parameter here to username and profile.display name. We'll give it a shot. We'll see if it works. Start my app again. Well, I want my logins canceled, so we can log in. Great, logs me in now. So it already recognized me, so it didn't try to create again. Good fix, thank you for finding that package. Would have been useful in the Passport Facebook docs if he said, make sure you install Mongoose find or create. Or maybe there's something here I missed. Well, it says a dependency is OAuth 2, but he doesn't actually make any mention of installing the find or create. He just uses it, but he doesn't tell us, so good for you for hunting that down. I'm looking to see if there's anything else Nothing here that really suggests we need it. So I'll take out my, or just comment it out. Now we can go in and out with Facebook. Absolutely. Well, I'm still logged in with Facebook. I don't think I was maybe not in the right window. Here, I'll try one more private window. And now we go, I'm logged in. So thanks for your patience. A few bumps along the way, but we got to where we wanted to go with this.
Now, assuming when you created your account, you gave it, when you log in with your email, it shows your email at the top there, on the right?
Because we're using email as the username on our register page.
Okay, so is there then a way to, if you had an actual username, is there a way to log in with Facebook and then say display this username?
Yep, that's what it will do.
So why does it say for whatever?
Because we're setting, yeah, because that's what we're setting, the profile, the display name.
So if you were to have an account that would create a new account with that display name, or will it be your old account?
Here's what it does. It takes from Facebook the display name and checks if there's an account that has that as the username. So it could be Kyle Duffy. That's your Facebook username. It will create it because if you sign up with local login, we're forcing an email address as the username. Right? On my register form, you couldn't sign up. We're saying type equals email. So you couldn't sign up. Then it will be a separate account. It'll create a separate account. Good question. So again, here was the function in app.js we want to use, much simpler. By adding that NPM package and plugging in our account model into it.
So username is better to use ID instead of display name.
Well, we could, but the Facebook ID will be some random string of letters and numbers. It won't be.
That's why I said something.
We could we could use the email instead if we want.
Display name is my actual name.
Well, but they're never going to log in locally because there's no password. So it's just basically for showing the username in the header is all that it's doing. So we could use the email instead. I don't know if it would be profile.email. We could try it. We could see if we change it to profile.email. So in this case, it should create a new account now. We'll try it and see. See what happens now. Okay. So it doesn't have an email property. It may be there's profile.emails. Yeah, it could be an array. Try that.
Anything other than display name needs something more static on your account. Your display name.
No, okay, profile.emails isn't right.
Facebook have documentation for API?
It does, so we would need to find
Tools and support, right?
maybe under docs. We can maybe see here. So we want information about the user.
User login, existing login system.
Um,
username include.
well, I want to find the actual property from the API.
Everything that's returned and displayed in the console, every property that's returned on the application is what we get.
That's true. Okay, that's a good idea. So let's put it, we'll just put it back to display name for a moment.
And the console also for the file itself.
Sure, so we could do a console log. Yep. That's a good idea.
I think ID is not changed. Individual user has their own unique ID.
Right, but then we're going to have their ID showing in the header. We don't want the ID. We want something
I think
friendlier.
In order to show that header, we need to use that object instead of using session.
So here's what we've got. It's got name and ID, display name. So we don't have the Facebook is not sending us their email address. This is what it's sending us.
So we need to save that username into the session, and then we can use it again.
Well, these are the only values we basically are getting. An ID. So we're going to have to use one of those.
You can change it profile fields. You can get email and even gender wording. When you create your Facebook strategy.
Ah, okay. So when we create the Facebook strategy, okay. Goes to profile, fields. Ah. Okay, well, we're already getting ID and okay. We get prof.
Run permissions on the Facebook API.
Oh, I see. Okay, so let's try that, and then it should be email 0, I would think. So I'll log out of Facebook as well.
If it doesn't work, check out the permissions API on Facebook.
Yeah, we're still not getting email here.
So it says here for permissions or strings that are passed along with a login request or an API call. Here are two examples: email, access the person's email, user likes. If you add the login button to a web app and ask for email and user likes via the scope parameters, the person will be prompted with this dialog box from line for the first time, saying that you give them permission to access your public profile email.
Where you use the password to authenticate Facebook. If you want to get the email, you need to scope it to email. After Facebook, I'll say this, yeah. You can put it inside the box. Instead of scope to Facebook. If area redirect is set to login.
Yep.
There could be a scope set to email.
Okay, let's try that. It's still not returning our email, right? This is what's being returned. So we're not getting the email. It's not giving us the email.
So you have to ask the user for permission.
Right. I think we need to modify the app permission to also get their email. So, hang on. Inside of our permissions,
It also says to use it right before you're gonna use it. Don't set it to a variable or something to store it for a while.
let's see if we have the ability here to change the permissions.
Is there a GET request to get/user-id/permissions? It'll give you the list of current permissions that you have.
I'm just looking if there's a setting here. There doesn't seem to be a setting here for those permissions. Here. Under app review, mind you, it says it's approved by default.
Because it's not live.
Because it's not live. So let me make it public and see if that makes a difference.
No, they're all checked. But the public profile wasn't checked either, and you were getting that back.
But mine's working now.
Well,
I'm getting the email address.
But now how would you request permission to post the profile or something like that? Because that's the same.
hang on.
Actually, the last time we gave permission, when you logged into Facebook,
Let's see.
it should actually ask you the permission again.
I need to log out of Facebook. Still not showing me email though.
I think that the line for the scoping email, it's required there. Scope to email.
Scope to email?
Yeah, scope. Set. No, scope. Just scope. Set to. It's the goal. For the other one, for Facebook.
Sorry?
For the Facebook route too.
Let's see if that does it.
And there are also allergies. And we're using the username equal to, but we are here it should, for accessing the email, it should be events. The profile dot events. Brackets 0 dot value.
All right, that would seem to make sense. We'll try one more time. Let's see.
Now it's asking for email address.
Okay, so now it's got my email. All right. Thank you, Prav. We'll go over those changes. So in app.js, we're setting up the profile field. So ID and display name, those are by default. Facebook gives us those. But we've included emails, and it's plural because it's an array, because Facebook allows you to store more than one email address. So we want to take the primary or the first email address in that array and save that. If we look in our array here, we now get that email address from Facebook. So then in our router, when we call Passport Authenticate, we are adding email to the scope. So the email is included along with the ID and the username. Great suggestions. Thank you.
Can I ask one thing? If you're using both the environment variable both instead of localhost 3000, how would we set it? How would we set the callback on Facebook when you connect the Facebook app?
Well, when you're doing it, I mean, locally it runs. So if you're talking about doing it live, you don't specify the port at all because it'll just go to your domain. So you don't need to specify. So on my Facebook app, right, there's no port.
For the localhost, if we also use on the localhost, if we're using the port, the environment variable instead of 3000.
Well, the environment variable, it's going to always be 3000 unless you change it to something else.
But if I have something else running on 3000 already,
then you could change it. Where is it? It's here. So you could make it 4000 in your bin www.
and I have to set 4000.
Then you'd have to set 4000 there as well. Yes.
I don't understand why we need to put the callback URL because already Facebook has the callback URL, right? We already write, but we write again in our code.
I know it. I understand what you mean. Why are we setting it here if we're also setting it?
Yeah, they already do that.
They do, but the strategy requires it. I think it's checking that what you're sending matches the app settings, right? To make sure that one domain isn't maybe trying to spoof another one. They want you to set the URL in both places, both in our application code as well as in the portal settings.
Okay.
That's my assumption.
And then they can use more than one. That's why they cannot distinguish.
Yeah. That's my assumption. I'm not 100% certain, but I think that's why. Okay, why don't we try to do, I think we have time. Let's try to do a Google authentication as well. We sort of ironed out a few of the bumps with Facebook, so doing Google should be a little simpler for us. So maybe we'll go in reverse here. The first thing we need, I didn't grab a login with Google button for you. Actually, wait a minute. I think I have one on my local machine that I can use and I can upload, or you can just go online and find a login with Google. I have one. I might want to resize it. Let's see. How big is my Facebook button? So my Facebook button is 168 by 36. So we could go and find a button. Maybe like this one. So I'll just save that to my lesson 9 folder and maybe resize it. So we'll just call it Google. So we said this one was, what did we say? 168 by 36. Oh, okay, that'll work. I can put this one on Blackboard if we want. Yeah, it's a bit small, but it'll do. I'll throw it up on Blackboard. Not sure if it's the right size. We'll see. Well, the font's a bit small, but it'll do. It's the right size. So download the Google image and save it to public images. And we'll go back to login and we'll put on a Google. We'll put on a link that goes to /Google. And then we'll display another image that has our Google button. I know they're not sized perfectly. Not quite. Good enough for now. So now we're going to need to go find the Passport Google package. There are actually a number of them. We want the latest one, and we're going to have to log into our Google accounts. You will need a Google account for this, because again, we're going to have to create an application, set up get Google to generate keys. It's going to work similar to how Facebook works. So make sure you've got your login button showing up here. I'll stop my application for a minute, clear my console. We'll go back to NPM and search for Passport Google. There's going to be a few that come up if you start typing passport-Google. The first one is the old version. It's been deprecated. Both are by Jared Hansen. We developed Passport. We want this second one, Passport Google OAuth 2. So choose that one instead. Or you can just go to npmjs.com/package/ actually, sorry, this isn't Jared Hansen. But if we have a look, we're going to install the package, create a strategy, almost identical to what we're doing with Facebook. And then we just write our 2 callback functions and we should be good. So let's do an npm install here. So we'll npm install passport-google-OAuth 2 --, save. Just follow what's there, but we're adding --, save. So once we've installed this, you need to log into the Google Developer Portal. We're going to go to developers.google.com. So what we want here is we're going to go into web. I think. Oh, yes, it is. Let's just look here for just a minute. This may not be where we want to go. Hang on. So where do we need to go to create our right? It's the down at the bottom, it's the Google API console we want. So from the main developers.google.com, here's our link here, Google API console. That's what we need. So we'll get something like this. So the first thing we need to do is create a new application like we did with Facebook. So here, beside Google APIs, I'm going to click Create Project. And I'll name it COMP2068, winter 2017. You can name it something else, and I'll create it. Inside of the project, we can create multiple APIs, but they're all contained within the same project. Let's say we want a Google Maps API. We don't have to create a new project. If we want to use Google Maps in here, and then we want to click this Enable API button, where we have to tell it which APIs are available in this project. So what we want is this one here. Under Social, we want the Google Plus API. Right here on the right, in the second row, the third item. Again, if we wanted to add other APIs, we can add as many APIs to this application as we want. We're only concerned with login, which is under Google Plus. So just click Google Plus API. So we've created, it's enabled. So now we need to go to credentials over here on the left and get Google to generate an ID and secret for us. So again, we created a project. We enabled the Google Plus API in our project. So now we click credentials. And let's click this Create Credentials button here in blue. So what we want is an OAuth client ID, this second option. So we have a few different options. We want the OAuth client ID because the Passport package we're using uses OAuth. So click OAuth client ID. And obviously we want a web application. Pardon? I can't hear. We have to
create some credentials first.
That's actually what I'm doing, is creating the credentials.
Making us like plug an email address, product name, users, template, URL.
Okay. That's interesting. You should be able to leave most of those things blank, I would think. So it's giving you the OAuth consent screen. So it's got an email address. Okay, so you may have to fill some of this stuff out. Well, I was the one who created Node Test earlier, so I'll create a new one. Oh, right. Hang on. I'm not in the right. Whoops. Okay. Let me start again. My project never got created for some reason. Okay. Lowercase letters. It's interesting. Oh, finally. Okay, so I'll start again. So new project, enable Google Plus API. I'll click enable. Yeah, I was in an old project. Okay, so now I'll click create credentials. Being created from a web server. So here's where it wants our callback URLs, just like Facebook did. So for now, I'll put in Google/callback as my URL. I can also specify a live domain /Google/callback. This is the original URI of the application. So again, for now, localhost 3000/Google. Yeah, they probably are optional. I'll create my client ID now. So here's the client ID. I'm not going to download. If I download it to a JSON file, which I can do, so here's my client ID and my secret. So we're going to need these values in a minute. So I'll open up that file. Let's grab my client ID. And then we'll go to our globals and let's add a Google section. Oops. So we'll add those same properties. So there's our client ID. My client secret's in the JSON file as well. Down at the end is the client secret. I'm going to copy that to globals. We want our ID and our secret and our callback URL in our globals, just like we did before. We don't have tons of time left, so I may need to go a little bit quickly just to try and finish. Okay, so now we've got those two sections. We've installed the package. I think our application is configured fully here now in Google. So let's grab this code to go in our app.js, and again, we'll make a couple changes to it. So I'm going to copy the configuration code, and we'll paste it in app.js just below our Facebook code. Now we've got Google Auth. We're going to read our ID, secret, and URL from globals. And then we want to change our find or create. We're going to change user to account because our model is called account. Now notice here, it's trying to save a Google ID. Again, we don't really care about their Google ID. We're probably more interested in the email. So let's change Google ID to username. But we're going to have to, well, let's try it first and see if it works. Then we're going to have to figure out how we actually capture their ID, like we did with Facebook.
Could they leave it Google ID so that you have to like link it to your account and my profile?
Yeah, because you could change your email theoretically. Thank you. So now we need our two get handlers in our index.js. Because right now, if we click the Google button, nothing happens. We get a 404. So here's our code in our middleware. So let's grab that block with our two get handlers. It does actually include the list of emails already here. They've added that to the scope. Similar to how we did it manually with Facebook. So inside our index.js, we're going to take auth out of the path. And again, we're going to change app to router in each case. We're taking out auth from the path. We should also change these redirections. So success redirect will be books. And a failure will be login. So I would think we should be able to again use profile.email0 in our app.js when we're calling find or create. So we can change this to emails 0. See how it runs. So I'll open a private window again. This time we'll try our Google login. Whoops. I guess it helps if I start my app again. So this time we'll try our Google sign in. So my app is asking for my permissions. Okay, let's see what our issue is. Almost. Oh, that probably should be .value. Maybe part of our problem. Ah, there we go. So let me try one more time. I'll review all the code. I think it's all right. We've got a few minutes still. I'm logged out of both my site and logged out of Google. When I log back in to Google, so now I'm logged in with Google. It has my address associated with my Google account, right? And I've got permission to add, edit, delete as a logged in user. So if I log out here and go back, I'm still logged in with Google, just signs me back in. So our username again was the profile.email0.value. So we mostly just followed the documentation and made a few tweaks with a few fixes from me and more fixes from you guys. So in assignment 2, I would like to see you use this, either Google or Facebook. You can also, there's also a Passport GitHub that works almost identical. It's almost identical. So use one of those. And as a bonus, you could also try Twitter, Kyle, you mentioned LinkedIn, something else. They all will work in a similar way. You're going to have to log into the developer portal and create an application and generate key credentials to allow your application to talk to it. But when you post it online, we do have to remember these callback URLs. So this will fail if I post this online now and push it to, say, Heroku. It's going to still be calling localhost 3000. It needs to call the live URL.
So wouldn't that log you in and then just fail when it goes in?
Yeah, it would log me in, but then I'd get a 404 because it's going to come back and it's going to try and call localhost, which happens every time I mark assignment 2. People do this. They forget to change and they wind up trying to redirect to localhost. Yep, that would be an intelligent way to do it. So you didn't have to jump back and forth. Yes, so you'd need to figure out what the current domain is and use that, set that in your callback URL. Yes, you could do that. Correct. Right, so something like so you could do something like this. For example, you can't, so you can check it in your node code to find out the domain. You could do that. Okay, I'm going to push everything up to Git. Okay, so just a reminder, please. So all the code is on GitHub. Reminder, part 1 of assignment 2 is due next week. So you do need to get started with an assignment 2 application. Think about what you want to do, what you'd like to build, whether you're going to build option A or if you're going to build option B, what kind of application you want to build. And if you're doing option B, make sure that you email me and to ask if your idea is okay. No, or if you've spoken to me, that's fine. So due next Tuesday night. And again, please try to come on time at the start of class next week. I also want you to think about a topic you might be interested in helping teach the class. Okay, so and we'll discuss those and make a list. We'll have 6 topics and we'll make that list and sign up for your presentation topics at the start of class next week. Okay. That's it for today. I hope you all have a great week.